Hey everybody, welcome to my channel and to Montrose Point, which has a bird sanctuary and a beach here in Chicago, a little bit north along the lakefront from downtown. And just thought I'd come out here and do some photos and videos. I have already seen hummingbirds feeding on the nectar of royal catchfly plants. Here's a clip. So that's pretty cool. But what I want to talk about today is, and I just got a comment asking about this. So Alamy, which is a stock agency that I have used since like 2004, and I shouldn't say agency, stock library, because these outfits are not agencies, because agencies imply an agent relationship, which means that an agent, if they're working for you and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they are putting your interests ahead of theirs. So Alamy now has updated their contributor agreement contract, and it's causing a lot of concern, to put it mildly. And if you go to the Alamy discussion forum, which I'll link to the thread about this down in the description. Well, a lot of people are unhappy. So essentially and I'm going to kind of preface this by saying Alamy at the beginning of the year redid their search engine. They updated it. And they put in a smart search, which I'm guessing is like AI, but you can still do the regular search. But whatever they did, it's kind of broken. I used to have images on the first and second page all the time, and now not so much. And my number of sales has dropped precipitously. And the other thing about the search engine, and I've noticed this, is when you do a search, it's returning results that don't fit the search. Like, I'm in Chicago, so I have a lot of stock photos of Chicago, and if I do a search on Chicago and some sort of modifier, yeah, I'll get Chicago images, but I'll also get images from other cities. I mean, that are totally irrelevant. I don't understand what's going on, and it doesn't seem to matter whether you use the smart search or not. So their search engine has now pushed people down in the search rankings. And the other thing that Alamy is doing, and it's really, there's some sandflies here and they bite, and I've got repellent on. And the other thing that Alamy is doing is they're just, when you get a sale, I used to regularly get 3-figure sales. I've had like 1 or 2 this year, maybe, one that I'm sure of. But now the sales are low down. I mean, they're selling images for $1 or $2, and they're less than $1. Worldwide rights in perpetuity for a pittance, and they don't price the images based on size. Like, they're selling high-res images, licensing high-res images, for peanuts. So you've got all that they've done, which is making it harder and harder to make money doing this. And now what they've done is they've put up this new contributor agreement. And 2 things in particular, because I don't want this thing to go on too long, but 2 things in particular that they've done that are like a huge problem. First thing is, you got to understand that Alamy has these tier levels. So I've always been in the gold tier. And the thing is, and that affects your commission, or what your split is. And of course, when Alamy started out, it was a 60-40 split in favor of the contributor. Then it went to 50-50. Then it went to 40%, 60% in their favor. And then they put in this tiered system. So if you're in the gold tier, it used to be that if you had $250 of gross revenue in a year, in a fiscal year, what they call a revenue year, you could stay in the gold level, right? If you drop below that, you drop down a level and you only got a 20% commission rather than a 40% commission. And honestly, if you're doing stock photography and you're not grossing above $250, you might want to think about doing something else. But here's what they did. They just raised that limit from $250 to $3,000. Now, back when I actually made money doing this, I was regularly way over $3,000. It wouldn't be an issue. But given all the reasons I've just spoken of, I don't. And I looked at what I made this year, and the contract goes into effect in September. I think September 1st, and they are going to actually look at revenue from the past year starting in September. You would think they'd maybe have a transition period where they'd kind of ease into this, but no, evidently they're not. So if you are below that $3,000, which by the way is a 12-fold increase over 250, in September, you're going to drop down to the 20% commission level. So you're already not making much, and you're going to make even less. The other problem is they put in this thing that says if there are any claims or complaints about your image when it gets used, you're financially responsible. I know in their license terms that there's a clause that holds Alamy and the contributors harmless in the event that somebody misuses an image, right? So anyway, so now not only are you not making money, but if something happens, and let's just say somebody shows up in an image that's used commercially when it should be just editorial, and you've marked it editorial, it looks like there's a possibility that, hey, you're going to be financially responsible, which means it's not worth it. I mean, if somebody gets sued, you're talking a lot of money, and it's possible it's going to be a lot of money. So completely ridiculous. So I've made the decision that I am done. I am going to cancel my account. To me, if you're interested in stock photography, Alamy is not it. In fact, I think probably these days you might as well not bother, because it is a lot of work. I mean, you've got to cull your images, edit them very tightly, and then you have to keyword and caption them. So if you're going to do that enough to make it worthwhile, you're going to be spending a lot of time in front of your computer doing that. Yeah, I know there's AI keywording software and stuff like that, but those things make mistakes a lot, so you probably don't want to just rely on that. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this Alamy contract. And I'll put a link, as I said, down in the description to the comment thread on Alamy's discussion group. You do not need to have an Alamy account to actually browse that discussion board, but if you want to post something, you have to have a stock account with Alamy. So check that out. But yeah, it's time to move on and not do this kind of thing anymore. It takes too much time. Life's short. I don't have time for it. Well, I'm back home, and it's a day later. I did that recording yesterday at Montrose Point. And in the interim, I have read further in the thread on the Alamy discussion forum, because there's like a 29-page thread. I'm surprised they haven't actually shut it down yet. But I saw some additional information, which makes this even worse. And that is that some people have had Alamy actually license images that are marked as editorial only. So if you have an Alamy account and you go in and you submit images, and then you go in to caption them and all that stuff, although you caption them on your computer, put the keywords. Generally what I do is I put 5 or 6 keywords on my computer, and then I'll add some when I get them onto Alamy, but there's a editorial use only box. So if there's anybody in that photo you don't have a model release for, which is a lot of general photography when you're out shooting outside. So if you don't have a model release, or there's property and you don't have a property release, you want to do editorial only, because if the image is used in an advertisement, commercial use, you got a liability problem there. Because if somebody sees that ad, let's just say, we don't have cigarette ads anymore, but let's just say somebody showed up in a cigarette ad, right? Or an ad for alcohol. Another example, like somebody who's a Mormon, they don't drink alcohol. They end up in a photo that goes into an ad for, some sort of alcohol. They're not going to be happy, and they're going to sue. So now you have the situation, because these folks who have had this happen actually put the license, they copy-pasted the license terms that shows up in their account when they sell an image. And Alamy is licensing images for commercial use that are marked editorial use only. So now you are, as I mentioned before, financially liable for any claims or complaints And the likelihood of that is higher if you have an image that should be editorial only getting used for commercial purposes. So it's just pretty much seals the deal for me leaving, because that's absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know if those are mistakes, but it should not happen. You should not be doing stuff like that. It's like, if you're a stock library, that's totally unprofessional. So, as I said, I am closing my Alamy account. One of the things that you should do, and I have done this, I got to download it, is when you go into their image manager, you can get all of your data in a spreadsheet. So you can get the image, their image name, your image name, and all the details, and you can get that in a spreadsheet. And you want to download that first, so you have a record of everything in there you have there. I mean, I have close to 12,000 images there, and I'm going to need that spreadsheet to figure out what I'm going to do with all of these images. Probably nothing. I've thought about doing my own thing on SmugMug, but you got to do a lot of marketing to get people to come to a site like SmugMug to license images. So, but so it goes. So, yeah, if this was useful, helpful to you, please hit the thumbs up. Can't talk today. Hit the thumbs up button. That's a big help with the algorithm to me. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I will get to those as soon as possible. It is the end of an era, sadly. I'm Todd Banner. I will see you in the next video.